I just get so nervous that they're going to just be boring.
Yeah, well, we'll just be boring anyway and then lean into it. That'll be the niche.
Okay.
People could listen to it to help them sleep.
No.
Yeah.
Kieran, I want all our hard work to go recognised.
Well, it will get recognised by the people who have a nice night's sleep listening to us quietly,
That's my dream. I want to be people's sleep material. That's oh, that doesn't sound right, does it? Yeah.
If you want to get a real deep sleep, listen to this podcast. Speaking of which, hello and welcome to the Scrambled Checksum podcast. My name is Kieran, the world's worst ASMR artist, and I'm joined here by my good friend Ethan, the world's most up-and-coming e-boy, I believe is the title that's been bandied around.
Okay, I'll go with that. I'm not sure. Do e-boys do makeup and stuff on themselves?
I would ask that of the internet's fastest rising e-boy. That's a question for you to answer.
Well, I guess if I'm the fastest rising e-boy, then it must be no. I don't think I have put makeup on, not like only like face paint makeup though, not like real makeup.
Do what makes you feel right. That's my motto. Anyway, speaking of which, this is the Scrambled Checksum podcast. Like I said, the slowest, most out-of-date source of tech, science, and other nerdy news.
And also, we sorry to cut you off there, Kieran, but we have actually launched the first episode now.
Wow!
As of recording, the first episode has been out. Yeah, for 2 weeks, and so some people have listened to part of it.
Well, that's great news.
Yeah, it was uneventful. It'll be fine. It's fine. We'll get listeners eventually, right?
Check it out on your podcast platform of choice. Unless you listen on Deezer, I think that's probably a big part of the problem. Is that I don't think
we're not on Deezer. Yeah. Right now, we're on. At the time of recording, we're on Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast,
not Deezer,
and Amazon Podcast.
Yeah, but Deezer's the hottest new podcast platform.
Do they even do podcasts?
Yeah, I think that's what they're all about. I thought that was their big thing.
No, they're music.
Right. Well, okay, that makes sense then. Okay, so we're not on. Okay.
I don't even know if they do podcasts. Well, I mean, we could just release it as an album.
Yeah, I was going to say that's what we're missing out on. We should be gaming the algorithm by releasing it onto services that don't support podcasts. Natively.
Universal Music, reach out and give us a record deal for our podcast.
Submit it to Netflix, see if we get greenlit.
You never know.
They could do it.
Stranger things have happened. It would be like there was that series, wasn't there, that was based off some dude that is friends with Joe Rogan, so he's probably a twat. Sorry, said that out loud. They got turned into a weird little Netflix original series.
I assume they were like every other Netflix original series, cancelled after 1 or 2 seasons and ended on a cliffhanger.
Almost definitely, yeah. The Midnight
forever.
Gospel, I think it was called.
Okay,
something like that. Yeah.
So, well, sorry to anyone that was watching that and hoping for a resolution, because I assume that you'll never get one. A bit like most other Netflix shows.
Yeah.
However,
sore topic.
There is a simple answer if you are unhappy with Netflix's policy of cancelling shows right as you're getting into them on a cliffhanger that you'll never see the end of, and that is voting with your wallet, which I believe...
that is a fine segue, Kieran.
Segues into your topic of choice for this week.
Yeah, it is. So basically what I wanted to talk about a little bit is, I have been on a bit of an adventure now for, when did I start this? It'd probably going on for about a year, maybe more.
Is this about your streaming journey?
No, this is with, so obviously we've got Windows 11 now.
The best version.
The greatest version of Windows ever. The last version of Windows.
I thought the last one was the last one of Windows, or did they not say that about Windows 10?
They did.
This is the last one.
And then they released another one. So this is the next last one, and there's also leaks that there might be a Windows 12 coming, which will also be the last version of Windows.
I mean, that's one way of doing it. Just say they're all the last version.
They're all the last version until the next version. So that's, in a way, Windows 10 was the last version of Windows.
We're just on Windows 10.11.
Well, or just like you'd say last week.
Oh, so you're like, remember last
Windows.
Windows?
Last Windows.
That's
yeah.
pretty clever, actually.
Anyway, I digress. I really don't want to switch to Windows 11. Because, well, for many reasons. One, I mean, like, I really didn't want to switch to Windows 10 when it first came out. And
Really?
to be honest, the reasons I don't want to switch to Windows 11 are basically identical. And that is that Microsoft is kind of moving further and further away from Windows. Isn't really the products they make, if that makes sense anymore.
Yeah.
It's a vector for them to sell the products that they make, which are services now. So like Microsoft 365, etc.
There was that rumor, right? I don't think it ever made it past like the beta, but when they were putting ads in File Explorer, I don't know. I think that was true. Was
Funny,
that fake?
you should mention that
Oh,
because
no.
in the latest build of Windows 11, which I don't think it's rolled out to the public release yet, but there are now ads inside of Windows 11.
Are they in File Explorer?
They're in File Explorer. They're in the Start menu.
They were always in the Start menu, weren't they?
But they're for Microsoft things. So there'll be prompts like you should use Microsoft Office if you want to not be a completely useless pile of turds that can't do productivity kind of thing. Or like I think there's one in particular. You click on your user profile and it's like, oh, we noticed that you're not using a Microsoft online account. You should use a Microsoft Online account to be more secure than your local account that's only stored on your what?
Yeah, and like you guarantee. I don't know if they're already doing it, but like when you launch Edge, you get the prompt of like, when you launch Chrome for the first time after installing it, it's like, hey, switch to Edge, a faster, more secure browser built on,
which is basically Chrome.
And I assume if you go
with
to
a skin
like
on it.
Google Docs on, I don't know if they're already doing this, but they will. If you go into like Google Docs on Edge, it'll be like, hey, do you want to get a 365 subscription and use a better Office program?
Probably. Well, I mean, to be fair, Google have been doing it for ages, haven't they? Where if you use any other browser other than Chrome, every time you go to the Google homepage, it's like, switch to Google Chrome today.
Yeah, faster. Yeah, I think it was actually Google Chrome that said the faster, more secure browser every time you went through many other browsers. But yeah, they're all kind of scummy as each other, aren't they?
They are really at the end of the day. But this is where I guess this kind of fits in. Well, because I don't want my computer to basically be harvesting information from it. I don't want to have something that's harvesting data from me to sell products that I don't want. Like I'm very much like if I want a product, I will go out and do the research and then buy the product. I don't want to be advertised at by my own possession, which is my computer that I built myself. Like I don't know. I want my computer to be running software that is only that the only thing that the software is doing is serving me because it's running on my computer.
And to be fair, I think just to clarify, you're not saying you're opposed to like ever paying for software, are you at all? That's completely. It's just you want to pay for the software once.
Yeah, god damn it. I paid for my license for Windows. And it wasn't cheap. I didn't even go out buy it off like Dave's dodgy windowskeys.org or whatever. Like I bought it from Microsoft. Like
that's where it gets a bit galling, isn't it? 'Cause it's like there's no option to turn all that or to like get rid of all that or to have a more traditional Windows experience by buying it. So it's like you buy the product, but it's like, wow, I've bought it. Now I've still...
I even give Microsoft my money willingly every month. I have a Microsoft 365 subscription as well.
Yeah, that's the frustrating part. You pay them for the service, but then you still get advertised for more.
Yeah, I'm paying them monthly. I paid for my license. like, what do you want from me? What do you like? Surely is that not enough? Like, I don't know. I hate it. I hate it, and I just see it going more and more in that kind of like. It's basically becoming the Google Android. So like, well, Android with the Google Play services, but the PC equivalent basically. It's
the worst
seemingly
part is
where Windows is going.
It's not just Microsoft that are doing it, because it infects other software vendors like a virus. So it's like the software as a service thing all over again, isn't it? But now it's like, we'll do software as a service and we'll get a perpetual income from it, but we'll also then serve you ads as well within the software that you're already paying for. Like Adobe do it with Adobe Stock.
Yeah.
And it's like, it becomes a little bit galling at that point.
It's like it started with like cable companies, or like in Europe, Sky, didn't it? With like, I've always thought it's just ridiculous that like people pay astronomical amounts of money for Sky, and then there's ad breaks on all of Sky's channels.
The worst part is they're some of they're really long ad breaks, I believe. And they're for usually just constant gambling company ads.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. I hate it.
Yeah, so you pay every month. Like what?
Yeah.
It used to be that people paid you to advertise their product. Well, I guess merch is a little bit different, isn't it? Because you pay the company and you advertise their product with the logo, but then you wouldn't buy it if it wasn't a design you like. Whereas I think the problem is it's your lack of choice, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. That is the problem I have with it. It's kind of. So this is the reason why I think we spoke briefly. I don't know if it was last episode or the episode before. We would briefly. I think I'd spoke about I use Firefox, for example, and I use DuckDuckGo and things like that. I'm basically, what I'm trying to do is, wherever I can practically, use an alternative to the big Monopoly Corp item. So in this case, obviously, I was talking about Windows. So you've got Microsoft Windows, or like, if say talking streaming devices. Obviously, you've got like Android TV that comes pre-installed on a ton of TVs these days, or you've got the Google Chromecast or the Fire TV stick or the Apple TV. I don't use any of those. I use a Roku because they're the underdog. They're not any of those big companies. So yeah, I basically, some of you probably figure where this is going. I have been experimenting with Linux.
You make it sound like you've been doing drugs or something like that.
Yeah, so I've just been. Dude, I've just been doing some hardcore Linux back
Oh,
there.
God. That sounds like a party.
Yeah, it was a great time, man. I did like sudo apt-get
Crazy, man. I
Firefox.
saw some error prompts that were unfamiliar to me, and went and looked at some answers, and they were also very unfamiliar to me.
I read a load of forum posts telling me how stupid I am for not just getting it.
Realised that all of the help articles were on a different distro or an old version, and the software.
I had to compile my own NVIDIA driver.
Well, you say that
because why would you want to download a pre-compiled version of it?
Well, you say that, but my solution years and years ago to the web browser monopoly was that I made my own web browser.
Oh, right. How did that go for you?
Well, it went quite poorly, actually. So,
I was going to say, you already said that you use Google Chrome, so I imagine not very well.
Well, so I made my solution was, right, I was like, I know what I'll do. None of these stupid people at Google and Microsoft know what they're doing, and Mozilla, they don't know how to design a browser. I'm going to make my own browser, the people's browser.
Yes.
So
Can we sell this along with Ethan's totally legit Bitcoin wallet and the laser discs? And
sadly,
what other products? What other products
sadly,
have we come up with
for reasons that will soon become apparent, my homebrew browser. I say it's a homebrew browser. It's not really. My own browser will no longer work. I mean,
was it better or worse than the MS Paint autofill project that you had?
It was more no. it was more developed, but I feel like the MS Paint autofill project, which I still want to complete someday. So we'll talk about that in the future episode potentially. But I still want to complete that someday. This project I feel like had a lot less potential. So anyway, I loaded up my instance of Visual Studio using I was using VB.NET as my programming language of choice.
Okay.
Clearly a brilliant choice for a web browser project.
I'm not gonna lie. I know basically nothing about programming, so I cannot possibly comment.
Oh, cool. Then in that case, it might sound impressive. It isn't.
I mean, the fact that you made a web browser to my little like stupid non-software knowledging brain, I'm like, wow, Kieran wrote software.
Well,
what a
this
legend.
This is where the problems begin. I'll start with the good. So first of all, I thought I had some cool features in mind. And tell me if you think... No browser, as far as I know, there's probably an extension that does this, but no browser, as far as I know, had these features. My first one was I was going to have an auto-refresh feature. So you could set a timer in like the top right corner of your window, and then the page that you were on would auto-refresh every, say, like however many minutes you put in or however many seconds. And I thought that was a pretty cool feature, but this was like...
Yeah, that is a cool feature for like badly designed websites.
This was a long time ago too, when there wasn't as many like, responsive like auto-refreshing pages, so stuff would jank out a lot, and you'd have to say, if you were watching like a stream of comments on like a live comment feed or something like that, occasionally it would jank out and you'd have to like manually refresh. So I thought it was a pretty cool feature. And then there was another one I had
F5.
where it would... I actually still think this is quite a clever idea. And I'm guessing it's probably already been implemented in browsers anyway. But my idea was that it would check it would check the title that the server was passing to you for the web page, and if it was on like a predefined list that I had of banks. So if it was like telling you that you were on, say, like a Lloyd's Bank page by the page title, but it would then check the domain, and if the domain didn't match the actual banks, it would throw an error.
Okay.
So it would say like, oh, hey, it looks like this site is potentially... And I'm guessing that there's a lot more sophisticated stuff than that's done. But I think I was about 14 at the time, and to me it was a really cool idea.
That is actually a pretty cool idea.
I
don't know whether I don't know whether it would work in... It wouldn't necessarily protect you from every way.
It wouldn't necessarily protect you from anything, to be fair.
Yeah.
And it would probably just have a lot of false positives, and it would just breed a habit of people clicking past them and do harm in the long run.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like how many domains it's really hard, isn't it, these days? Like looking at like one of the oldest kind of tips is for checking if you're on it's a spam link or it's a legit link that you've gone to, is like, oh well, look in there, and then if it's like, I don't know, Lloyd's Bank
spelled wrong.
.co.uk and it's all spelt right, then it's right. But then so many places, as soon as you click login, it goes to like auth.lloyd hyphen 597, and that is the legit login. But that's like so many legit URLs look super dodgy these days.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That was one of my problems. The other one was that obviously every time that you couldn't just do like, oh, if it contains the word like Lloyd's Bank, because then if it was an article about them, every single time it would trigger the false positive. So I had to know exactly what their login page title was, and obviously they update that occasionally, and there was other problems, like it couldn't possibly cover every single one in the whole world. But it was for a 14-year-old, I thought that wasn't a bad security feature. That's where the good features end, though. And
okay,
basically, so the way I built it was in the Windows Forms interface. There was a drag and drop web browser you could just like put into your program on Windows, and you'd have to pass it like the web page you wanted to go to and stuff, but it would basically just work. And I was like, dang, I can just add features to this, and I got me I've made, this thing just does all.
So is it basically just Internet Explorer? But...
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. So I basically dropped in.
Oh no.
I couldn't work out how to. I spent weeks trying to figure out how to do tabbed browsing, and I couldn't ever get it to work properly. So it was a non-tabbed, less feature-rich Internet Explorer 6, I believe.
I've got the title for this podcast.
The world's best browser.
No. Something along the lines of like the thumbnail will be, I achieved the impossible, and then the title is, I made Internet Explorer even worse.
It probably was, yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, because that was what's that pre-Internet? It wasn't Internet Explorer 6 actually, because I think Internet Explorer had tabs at the time. But yeah, it was a flawed project. I had my own icon and everything though.
Have you still got the code and stuff?
I still have the icon. I'm sure I still have the code. Yeah, I don't delete much.
Yeah. Oh, I would love to see that one day.
I'll try and get. I don't know if it would still run on.
I've got an ISO of Windows 7.
I should be able to run it because it should just. I think I could still compile it.
Yeah.
We'll investigate that for a future episode, and maybe on the video version I can include a
exclusive content.
Yeah, maybe on an exclusive content we'll show a live video of it completely failing.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you want to vote with your wallet, you're welcome to purchase that browser.
For security, I've just thought of an amazing segue, but I'm not ready to segue onto it. But never mind.
So going back to voting with your wallet, you've been experimenting with hard Linux.
Hard Linux. Yeah, so basically, back at the end of last year, I fixed up my old MacBook Pro, which is still the only laptop I've ever bought and kind of daily driven, because I've kind of been tied to the desktop since I stopped using that as my daily driver. So I had to fix the keyboard, and by fix the keyboard I mean you can't replace the keyboard because in Apple's infinite wisdom they riveted the keyboard to the top cover.
The best way.
So I mean you could replace it, but you risk kind of completely destroying the top cover in the process, or not being able to reattach a keyboard to it. And yeah, so in the end I just bought a second-hand top cover off eBay from a dead MacBook, and transplanted the rest of the functioning components from my MacBook into that, and then I put an SSD in it, upgraded it to 8 gig of RAM, and installed Pop! OS from System 76, which is a distro that is forked off of Ubuntu. So I've been using that on my laptop for coming up on 6 months actually now, I think.
Are you getting used to it?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's absolutely fine running for anything I need to do on my MacBook. Which the bigger limitation on that computer is not the fact that it's running Linux. The biggest limitation is the fact that it's a dual-core i5 from 2011.
If anything, it's probably better that it's running Linux than like trying to like. Good luck. I mean, it wouldn't run a newer version of Mac OS, so you just trapped on.
Yeah, that was the reason that I finally kind of stopped using that laptop a couple of years ago, was that it was no longer going to receive the latest versions of Mac OS. It does actually still, surprisingly for Apple, it does actually occasionally still receive security updates in Mac OS, even though it's not got the latest version.
That's because like I know Windows do keep them going for a long old time.
Yeah, so I mean, kudos to Apple, really. And also I would like to say that other than the fact that the keyboard is riveted to the top case, the ease of disassembly and everything else, it's really good. It's better than most Windows laptops that I've ever tried to disassemble.
And I think the best part about that is obviously that's an older MacBook, and that trend just continued, didn't it? Right up into the newest MacBooks, which nowadays just like
they're so easy to take apart. I mean,
just get a heat
it's really no. What they did, Kieran, is they made it even easier to take apart by just soldering everything to one board.
Perfect. So then you just replace the whole board.
Yeah. What could be easier than that?
Simple. I think they're just one step away from the true easiest repair, which is make everything complete. Like, have some way to make it physically impossible to
just literally weld the bottom cover onto the, like, fuse it to the top cover, so you physically cannot get in. There is no non-destructive way to get to the internals.
Yeah, have some kind of mechanism inside, like card reader things that they have in shops have this, where as soon as you lift the case apart, a switch triggers and it wipes the BIOS.
Yeah. And and also like, I don't know, squirts acid all over the logic board. It dissolves a load of the traces.
Well, it's even easier to repair, because what you do is you take the laptop, you throw it away,
throw
and
it in the bin and buy a new one.
Buy a brand new one. It's perfect.
Yeah. But if you had Apple Care, then you wouldn't even have to buy a new one. They'd just give you one.
Perfect. And then the other one just gets thrown away. It's so convenient.
It is so convenient. Why do we even try to repair things?
Slap that iFixit sticker onto your brand new laptop.
Yeah, I fixed. I
fixed it. I threw the old one away and bought this new one. Fixed it.
Oh no. Okay. Anyway,
we don't condone e-waste, by the way. We.
Yeah, please don't do that. Please, let's not. I'm actually quite proud of the fact that my MacBook, I got it in 2013, so it's over 10 years old now and still running. Yeah, it's old, and you know, it's still, I can do my finances on it. I can browse the web.
What's not to like?
I could watch films in 1080p on all the streaming things.
My computer.
You know, it does all the thing. Wow, I say like it. I could watch them in. I could stream it in 1080p. The screen's not 1080p. It's just over 720p.
Yeah,
one of those weird Apple resolutions, but
it's been given a new lease of life on Pop OS.
Yeah. So I kind of, obviously, like I say, it's kind of limited what I could do in there, but I've been kind of gradually moving to more and more. I want to be able to do everything natively, and everything I'm doing on that laptop now is native. For a while, I was running Windows 10 VM in order to use Microsoft Office, but I'm now transitioned to using LibreOffice, I believe.
Excellent.
Yeah, LibreOffice. So I am actually using that, and to be honest, I haven't had any issues. It does everything I need it to do. So yeah, I'm using LibreOffice. The only thing I'm now using my Microsoft 365 subscription for is OneDrive, and also for this podcast, me and Kieran have a perpetual topics doc, which is in OneDrive, and it's just easier for us to use Microsoft Office for that. But other than that, yeah, so I installed LibreOffice on my PC as well on Windows, so I've got the same software on both. Yeah, but gaming, that's yeah. So I wanted to start playing around with gaming, so I got a second SSD, stuck it in my PC. I installed Pop OS on there, and unfortunately, that's when the problems began.
What?
Yeah.
Problems?
Yeah, in Linux, it doesn't just work.
I think if you built the distro, it does.
Oh, it had a great feature, Kieran. You'll love this. So I so I was thinking, well, you know, Valve has what's it called, Proton now, which because the Steam Deck obviously runs Steam OS, which is a fork of the version that runs on the Steam Deck, at least, is a fork of Arch Linux. The version that you can download to run on a PC is forked off of something else and is not even being developed anymore. And it's really frustrating that they won't just release the freaking Arch Linux version to be able to run on anything.
Have they said why? Are they worried about,
they've said they're going to. They just haven't.
Oh, that's a shame.
But like, I tried to jank install it in a VM and I just couldn't get it to work.
I guess they're too busy making new Half-Life games.
Oh, yikes.
Yeah, that's a sore subject for me.
They just released a second CS Counter-Strike. I was going to say CSGO, but it's not called CSGO. It's called Counter-Strike something else. But they've released a second Counter-Strike now. Finally.
Well, that's good.
But anyway, that's a different topic. But yeah, so I can't remember what game I installed, but it installed the entire thing, and then I went to launch it, and then it was like compiling Vulkan textures or something like that. So basically, the way Proton works is most games that you'll play on Windows will use DirectX as their kind of graphics API, but that's a Microsoft proprietary API, so you can't, like, Microsoft aren't going to let you just run that on anything. So basically what Proton does is it translates the API calls from the game, the API calls designed for DirectX, whatever version you're using, and it translates them into Vulkan API calls, and because Vulkan will run on pretty much anything. It can run on Windows, it can run on Linux, it can run in Mac OS. It's I believe it's open source. I don't know, Kieran, can you?
I have no idea. I just remember hearing about the API call translation, and I thought that was super clever.
Yeah. So anyway, I think Vulkan is open source. Anyway,
run it on your graphing calculator, and we'll
yeah. But basically, anyway, yeah. So it has to recompile a load of stuff before you can launch the game. And unfortunately, even though I have an 8-core Ryzen 3800X processor, 16 gig of RAM, it literally in Pop! OS for some reason it just froze instantly. Like the entire system just locked up every time it did that. Like
Weird.
To the point, like if I moved the mouse on the screen, it was moving like at one frame every like 10 seconds.
Also, it was like, I was going to say, because if it wasn't just that it completely crashed. It was
well, yeah. To be fair, yeah, it was still running just incredibly slowly. So it's got to be a bug. Like
yeah, that's so weird.
I don't know what was happening, but something was just overwhelming. So I couldn't. This is the thing. I couldn't even open System Monitor to see what was happening. So I decided to abandon that, and I did a bit of Googling and found a few listicles on kind of like Linux distros, and kind of came to the conclusion that maybe I should try Manjaro, which is a fork of Arch Linux, and it's also the one that Linus of Linus Tech Tips used in the Linux challenge. And a few people had said, okay, yeah, this is pretty good for gaming. So I installed Manjaro, and I had a lot more luck with that. I was able to get Tomb Raider, Shadow of the Tomb Raider to run.
Nice.
Which with Proton and everything. But for some reason, whenever I turned VSync on, even though Linux was detecting that my monitor is a 75 Hz refresh rate, my monitor was set to 75 Hz, VSync was detecting 60 Hz. So it was locked at 60, and also as a result had terrible screen tearing.
Did you have like terrible screen tearing to begin with as well, so you needed VSync anyway? Like you couldn't just turn VSync
well, yeah,
off
I mean, yes, because otherwise the frame rate would just run away like over 75 Hz, and then yeah, not a fun time. 75 FPS, not Hertz. Because we like to make sure that we're giving correct and fully accurate information here at the Scramble.
And I'm guessing there's no like frame limit setting.
No, not in Shadow of the Tomb Raider, unfortunately.
Here's my janky fix, right?
Okay.
Run something incredibly GPU intensive in the background, like crypto mining, for an example.
And try and exactly match it to 75.
Yeah, throttle your own. It doesn't matter if it goes below.
I could just underclock my graphics card.
No, it would be better if you just like throttle it with software.
Okay.
Just run enough graphics intensive applications in the background until you can balance, and then just like fine tune it.
I think both solutions are pretty janky. I think yours is. I prefer yours though.
Run your graphics card or actually an even better idea, like a fork of the towel trick on the old Xbox 360 to fix the ROD. Just wrap your PC in towels, overheat your graphics card, make it like reduce its clock speed to bring the temps under control, and then just get it, because then you can keep it at that temperature relatively easily. Give it a bit more airflow when it's starting to when the FPS goes too low. Put the towel back on when the FPS gets too high. Yeah,
I mean, the weird thing was though, because I can also on my monitor I can adjust the refresh rate, so I can set it to 60 Hz. So I set it to 60 Hz, and when I did that, I still had screen tearing, even though the frame rate was reporting that it was at 60 FPS.
Oh dear!
Like solid. So I don't know what was going on there. Anyway, I've been watching this guy called this channel's called the Linux Experiment on YouTube, and he did like this ranking, like tier list of basically Linux distros that he's used, and he ranked Manjaro like basically right at the bottom, and for good reason. Basically, yeah, I won't go into it. Watch the video. If I remember, I'll link it down in the description if you're on YouTube. But if you just Google or search on YouTube the Linux experiment, distros ranked or something like that, it should come up. But anyway, the one that he was kind of praising the most was Mint.
Hey, that's the one I've been using at work. Not for my main computer, but for a separate system that we've got.
Yeah, and Mint actually has a very similar desktop, because I actually quite like the... So Manjaro uses the KDE something or other desktop, which is it's kind of a Windows 7 alike kind of vibe, but it has like widgets and stuff, and they were really cool. Like you could have like widgets up on one screen, like they're all just like built in for like monitoring system activity and stuff. And I really liked that.
Could you have the really tacky ones from Windows Vista?
They were actually kind of reminiscent of that, actually, in some of them, yeah.
Put little sticky notes on your desktop. I mean, you can still do that, but like the widget was the real.
You could have all sorts. You could have, there was like a weather widget. There's like CPU usage by core.
Have that clock.
Yeah, all the things. It's so customizable. But yeah, obviously Manjaro I don't think is the one. But I decided to go with Mint, but I just could not get it to boot. Like it just kept coming with that. I don't know if it's because the USB drive I was using is dead, or the SSD maybe that I'm using, because it's kind of an old one that I basically found in a skip. Not literally, but, without, basically I found it in a skip for all intents and purposes. So maybe the SSD's just dodge. But I need to do some tinkering, so I haven't been able to get Mint running. But I really, really want to get Linux working for everything that I do. So I'm full steam ahead. I'm willing to deal with the pain and get it working. That's what I want to do. And we spoke last episode, I think, about the Framework laptop. And a question I have for you, Kieran, is what do you think I should do when I hopefully inevitably get a Framework 16? Because the OS options for that are obviously bring your own OS, or they ship it with Windows 11. And I don't know whether I would be able to run Windows 10 on it, because some of the newer processors that come out actually don't support Windows 10. What do I do? Do I run Windows 11, or do I go, right, this laptop will never see Windows?
I think find an old retail copy of Windows XP.
I think if Windows 10 won't run.
No, or run an old copy of MS-DOS.
Oh yeah.
And then you can kind of get used to the like power user experience of using the command line. And
then you think I should go Linux with no GUI?
Yeah, I think but you get used to it with MS-DOS first and command line only, then switch to the CLI only version of Linux and just power user it. No, in all seriousness, I think it depends on it. To me, it would depend on whether you're using it as your like daily driver / probably gaming would be the big thing, right?
It will be my sole computer.
Because I think if it's your sole computer...
Not including, like, obviously I'll still have my MacBook and, like, I mean, I don't think I'm ever going to be someone who only has one computer, because I just like to tinker too much, and I don't like... I like to limit my tinkering on my main system, because I want it to be up and running. So I'm always going to have more than one computer, because, nerd. But...
So I would say if you're going to have it as your main computer, I'd go... I think you're going to have Windows on it for gaming, because I think you're going to get to a game that you really want to play, and maybe one that's not even out yet, and you're going to try and run it on Linux, and it'll be really frustrating, and you won't be able to get it to quite work. And you'll want to play it right there and then, and you'll just be like, God, I wish I could just... But I think that's all you'd probably need the Windows install for.
Yeah, because the one thing, there's a really, because I was obviously we use DaVinci Resolve for editing purposes here at the Scramble Checksum, and there was an irritating thing. So to run DaVinci Resolve in Windows, you don't need
You need a supercomputer.
You don't. Well, yes.
Well, I say that.
Weirdly, you don't need a discrete graphics card.
Well,
but in Linux, you do.
I've got a discrete graphics card, and it doesn't work for shit. Admittedly, my graphics card is old. It's ancient, actually. But
I've literally got my graphics card is like the minimum recommended spec for DaVinci Resolve.
Yeah, I can't throw too much shade on DaVinci Resolve because I didn't pay a penny for it.
Yeah, me neither.
And it doesn't run.
We didn't pirate it. You can get it for free off their website. We're not pirates.
Yeah. I think the part that frustrates me about it is I can run Premiere, but I can't run DaVinci on the same hardware.
Yeah.
But I can't throw too much shade.
Wow.
Yeah,
points for Adobe. That's rare.
Yeah, I know. That was what was the most frustrating part. I think the most frustrating part was it made me look in the mirror and realize that I complained about Premiere a lot, but then I went to a different program that couldn't even run, and it made me. Well, I say it made me like confront some home truths about hating on Adobe too much, but they're Adobe.
Yeah, you gotta.
They make enough bad decisions. But you were saying about the discrete GPU.
Yeah, so in Linux you have to have a discrete GPU, but with the Framework 16, obviously it has a discrete GPU. Or, well, it can be configured with a discrete GPU, which I absolutely would be doing because why not? And I want one because gaming. So, that wouldn't be a problem. I could run DaVinci Resolve, GIMP, Inkscape. They're all all these open source programs that I'm trying to lean towards anyway because I want to not be just going with the big bad evil corporations. I'm already using on Windows. I can use them in Linux. So like you say, the only barrier really will be gaming. I don't know. I'm optimistic about where it is getting better. If you go 5 years ago, I wouldn't have just been able to literally install Steam, a native version of Steam, and literally I didn't tinker at all. It didn't work perfectly running Tomb Raider, but I didn't have to do anything. I installed the operating system. Yeah, I had to do the stupid compile the frickin' NVIDIA driver myself because why? I don't get that. And this is the official one from NVIDIA's website, by the way. This isn't like some open source driver. This is the proprietary driver for Linux from
to be fair, that's probably just NVIDIA making life difficult, isn't it?
It probably is. It probably is because, NVIDIA, fuck you. Hopefully everyone listening gets a reference. But yeah, I didn't even... Yeah, I did that. I installed Steam, the native version, from the package manager that came with Manjaro. Signed in. I installed Shadow of the Tomb Raider. I clicked play. Clicked OK on all the errors saying that it wasn't optimized for my distro. Blah, 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 blah. Clicked play anyway. And it ran. It just ran. Aside from the screen tearing thing.
A lot of credit's got to go to Steam there because they really did push that forward. I know it's to the
absolutely
kind of selfish ends, but I think it's difficult because you almost need something like that because I don't know if you saw, and I forget which indie game it was now, and which developer it was, but I saw someone that had done a Kickstarter indie game, and they said something like 1% of their revenue came from Linux users, but something like 60% of their support tickets came from them.
Yeah.
Which is if you're an indie studio, what are you going to do? You're just going to have that experience, and then you're probably not going to release your next game on Linux, or you're not going to ship a Linux version because it's just not, you haven't got the resource to support that.
Yeah. It's the whole paradox of platform development, isn't it? Really, where it's the same thing that it's what killed the Windows Phone, which I rooted for back in the day. When Windows 10 Mobile came out, I really wanted that to be successful because, like, I mean, like, any competition is good competition, right? Well,
Yeah,
maybe not in, like, tyrannical leadership or something like that, but, like...
Let's not forget the Ouya.
The what?
The Ouya. The
Ouya.
The best gaming console out there. It ran Android poorly.
Oh, right.
The controller was of poor quality. It was a Kickstarter campaign. I think it ran late. I think backers actually got theirs after they were available at retail.
Wow.
But you know, it was competition.
I'm not sure whether that's better or worse than it never launching.
I bet you that Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo had some sleepless nights about that system.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. But yeah, I think the Windows Phone died because basically no one would develop apps for it because there wasn't enough people adopting it, and no one would buy it because all the apps they wanted to use weren't available on it. So,
and Stadia.
Yeah. Oh, wow. But Stadia was created by Google, so it was going to die whether it was successful or not.
Well, that's true. Yeah, Stadia, unless Stadia literally replaced Google Ads as making all of their money, it was going to get sunset, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I'm
still waiting for the day that they announce sunsetting Android.
Or sunsetting YouTube.
Yeah.
The difference is they didn't develop either of those in-house. They acquired them.
That's true. Gmail. We're sunsetting Gmail.
Yeah. Oh, can you imagine?
Google Maps. Sunset.
Oh,
doesn't make us enough money. It's not
Please,
successful.
no. How am I going to know where I am?
We're sunsetting Google Search.
I don't even know where I am right now, Kieran, unless I use Google location services.
I genuinely wouldn't be. Can you imagine if, like, in 6 months' time, they're like, right, guys, we're packing it up. Google Search is coming to an end.
I'd have to buy an iPhone.
Well, yeah. Apple Maps.
Oh, Jesus. If only
Or
Windows Phone was still around, then I could have used Bing.
Yeah, or BlackBerry never had their own. They predated that, but you know.
Yeah.
Nokia.
Yeah, I mean, they're owned by GMD Global, who...
yeah, they're not Microsoft anymore.
No, they were... Yeah, Microsoft ditched them when they, yeah, yeah, so I don't know. I think, like you say, it takes someone like Valve coming in and doing the hard work, because they basically no one, probably most people who buy the Steam Deck don't even know that it's running Linux.
No, probably not.
They probably don't even know what Linux is.
Or if they, I don't, they might. I think they're probably a higher percentage of them know what it is, but I think they just.
Well, they've at least, they're aware that it's another operating system. That's probably.
And they don't. I think they don't enjoy the tinkering element of running something like Linux enough to want to install it on their main computer. They want something that they can just start the game up and it'll just work every time.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about the kind of debugging you have to do when you're running a bit more of an unusual operating system.
And Valve have done a really good job of making it incentivizing using SteamOS instead of Windows on the Steam Deck, because Windows is a buggy pile of crap on the Steam Deck. So even though it technically can run it.
I mean, in many ways, it's a buggy pile of crap on a lot of computers anyway.
Well, true. That is very true. So, but yeah, I don't know. I'm hopeful. I mean, the Steam Deck has definitely been a success. I think it's fair to say. So I don't know. I'm optimistic for the future of Linux gaming, and I really, I mean, I don't really care if Linux is the thing to dethrone Windows or not, as long as something does. But right now, I feel like Linux is the thing that has the best chance. I mean, there isn't really anything else, is there?
I don't even think it necessarily needs to dethrone.
Well, only dethrone it in terms of, like, I just want it to become, I don't know.
It's like the Mozilla thing, isn't it? It's like, as long as there's a competitor in the space who's got a reasonable market share.
I mean, macOS, what's macOS's market share? Like 10%?
Even so, that's still Apple, isn't it? And
yeah.
They dominate the phone. I say dominate, obviously there's Android, which is massive as well, but
I think, yeah.
You just want someone that's competing on the gaming side would be nice, so that Microsoft can't foist horrible horrible updates to the gaming space out
Yeah.
on us, and we've got no recourse to run.
I just want there to be not even just gaming. I just want there to be a mainstream operating system that isn't Microsoft, isn't Google, isn't Apple, and like I'm not like yeah, I can see the merits of open source. I don't even really give a shit whether it's open source or not either. I just want there to be a viable alternative that isn't trying to just harvest all your data or force you to only be able to run it on a specific set of hardware or be basically a glorified web browser.
So here's a bit of a closing question for you. A little bit of a two-parter, a little bit of a thinker. Do you think, so the main part of the question, do you think that if, having said what we said about Valve revolutionizing the gaming space on Linux effectively and making it kind of viable, do you think if someone came into the Linux market and either, again, assuming that this would somehow be made to work with the legals, I know, like with open source and GNU type licensing, it probably wouldn't be possible. But say if someone came into the Linux space, built an OS based on the Linux kernel, either forking an existing project or making their own, and then sold it as a product and licensed it a bit like Windows used to, and then took on like they made it a bit more polished, so there was less tinkering needed. I don't know, maybe they partnered with Valve in some way and it ran Steam games really, really well. Didn't need a ton of tinkering. They pre-compiled an NVIDIA driver and included it. They kind of ironed out all of the tinkering you have to do. Do you think that would ever become a viable competitor to Windows and Mac? And the kind of two-parter to that, do you think the Linux community would just completely disown it, dunk on it, hate it, because it was a thing you had to pay for?
So the second question, absolutely they would.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course they would.
And to be clear, I'm not inherently saying they'd be wrong, because it's ripe. The open source can be ripe for the exploiting by greedy companies looking to kind of fork an open source project and use it to sell their own products. They wouldn't necessarily be wrong depending on how they did it. But I think even if they did it incredibly, in good faith, I think there'd still be a subset of the community that hated it.
Yeah. I think, but then the first part, I think they'd struggle. I don't know. I think I think there's a lack of consumer knowledge. I think like most people don't care that Microsoft are slimy bastards because they don't know enough they don't know why they should care, if that makes sense.
I guess I'm imagining them taking the like Chrome OS route to market, where rather than maybe doing like what Google did and initially building their own devices, they maybe partner with some OEMs, and then the kind of average consumer shopping just for a computer to go on, the old I just want a computer to go on Facebook.
Yeah.
They would then just see it as a cheaper, and again, I know Microsoft used to anyway do some shady stuff with the OEMs and, kind of make them pay for licenses whether they put them on the computer or not, and bullied them into having exclusivity deals. But assuming all of that got worked around somehow, this mythical Linux distro was just became in like a shop where you buy a computer. It was just a cheaper operating system, and I don't know, maybe the sales rep in there would kind of sell it as like, oh yeah, this is a cheaper one. It runs scrambled checksum OS. Don't worry about the name, it's kind of janky, but it's a cheaper computer than Windows, and it works most of the time. Sometimes could they like use that to?
I don't know. I think if it can do basically everything. But I mean, I think one of the things that Linux has got going for it these days is that most people spend their pretty much their entire time on a computer is spent in a web browser, and that's pretty much the same in Mac OS, Linux, Windows, Chrome OS.
A lot of applications as well. It's like you don't install stuff anymore. You just go to a website, hit login, and it runs in the browser.
Yeah,
right?
so most stuff out of the bat like already works on Linux. It's just the more kind of things like more resource intensive things like your creative applications and like design applications and your gaming and things like that are always going to be the challenging ones. I mean, I'm
So I guess if we found a company that was selling off their old computers, I guess my real question, if we found a company that was selling off their old computers and we bulk bought like a load of old HP
and then
Dell
installed
machines,
Scramble OS,
installed Scramble OS on it, just a fork of Ubuntu, like spent hours and hours of our time pre-installing a bunch of programs on there that would make it easy for the average user. I'll recompile and we can install my web browser.
How do we always end up talking about how we could turn this into some kind of scam?
It's not a scam.
Every podcast.
We need to
we always
monetize.
come back to it. You know what we haven't mentioned yet? Do you think that
we ship it on Laserdisc?
Yes, I was about to say, yes, you stole the words right out of my mouth. Do you think we could somehow encode it onto a Laserdisc?
Yeah, it's perfect because the beauty of the Laserdisc is they're so big. We could write the license key in pen on each of the Laserdiscs.
Yes.
And then it saves, we don't need to ship it in a case, just ship the disc loose, maybe in a bit of bubble wrap.
Yeah, amazing. I love it.
Like, I guess what I'm saying is buy our OS, available in all good big box electronics retailers soon.
Yeah. It's totally open source. In the same way that if you went to Tesco, other supermarkets are available, and bought a jar of pasta sauce and then got home to discover that it had already been opened, it would totally screw you over.
It's open source in the sense that you can open up your hard drive physically and see the bits on the platter if it's an old style one, which ours will be because they'll be from a bunch of old harvested office computers, so none of them will have an SSD.
Yeah.
So it's open source in the sense that you can see the bits.
And we might even put some pasta sauce in there as well.
Well, that too, yeah. Already opened source.
What pasta sauce would you go for?
I'd go for a for this product. I'd go for extra pungency, for a like extra onion and garlic one.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, so we pour that in there.
I'd go for a chunky mushroom.
There you go. So it deters thieves.
Yeah.
It's a great way to keep your data secure for any physical attacks. You know, they always say,
no one can read it.
They always say if your machine's, air gapped on the network.
Yeah, or even pasta sauce gapped.
Yeah, that's the final line of defense is our pungent pasta sauce. The most secure browser.
Kieran Explorer.
Yeah, KNet, it was called.
Yeah.
There you go. It's a perfect computer. Available now. Priced on the mid end of the market. We're not going in for the cheapskate.
I think a nice round. Should we say 800?
I was thinking $699.99 for the memes.
Okay. Oh, how about we could go £694.20.
Oh dear. Yeah, it's got to be right.
Yeah.
There you go.
There we go. Nailed it.
Available now. Buy our crap. Install our operating system.
And I do. So just to bring this episode full circle, what does any of what we've talked about have to do with voting with your wallet, and what the hell does that mean? Basically, voting with your wallet is voting for every time you buy something, you're effectively investing in that. Whether you think you don't think of it like that, but if you buy a Mac, you're effectively investing in Apple. You're giving money to Apple. You're helping them continue doing what they do.
If you buy Bitcoin, you're investing in losing money.
Yeah, a scam. But so by using Linux and installing games on Linux, and you're kind of if you donate to the open source communities that develop things for Linux, etc., you're essentially voting for competition. I'm not saying just Linux, just anything. So any opportunity. That's why I bought a Roku, like I say. That's why I try to buy second-hand things as well from places like CEX, not Spawn. Or
that's why you're totally going to buy a WinRAR license as soon as the prompt gets
totally,
too annoying.
yeah. Like, invest in the change. We like if you want a world where there is more open competition and we don't have all these bloody tech monopolies slowly taking over more and more of our lives, don't keep freaking buying their stuff. Thank you. I will die on this hill.
Buy our crap instead.
Yeah. please. Like, just any opportunity. Just buy our stuff, basically. Is what I'm saying. This has been an entire ad for our new merch store. Yeah.
Yeah, let us become one of the tech monopolies that's slowly taking over the world.
Yeah. So, sorry this has probably been a less amusing one than previous episodes, maybe. It's been a little bit more on the serious. I feel like it's been a lot of me kind of talking at Kieran as well. So next week I'll give him a break and let him talk about his stuff. I'll just sit here dutifully listening.
More calls to action for my crap.
Yeah. We've got the Laserdisc call to action in there. We've mentioned Laserdisc. Is there anything else we need to mention, Kieran?
I think we've hit all the points on the Scrambled Checksum bingo cards. So I'll just close by saying, vote with your wallet, buy our crap.
Yeah, thank you very much for listening. Like, comment, subscribe, Spotify, Apple Music. Apple Podcasts.
These are coming soon.
These are coming soon. Did I say Spotify? Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts. If YouTube. I can figure it out, Stitcher. But I probably can't be asked. And, maybe other platforms. Just listen to it wherever you find it and you want to listen to it. And share it with your friends and family if they're interested. Yeah.
Share it with them even if they're not, but the watch still counts.
Yeah. Get them to leave hateful comments. It's all engagement.
Yeah, it's good for the algorithm.
Yeah. Okay. And we will see you 2 weeks on Monday.
Yeah, see you every other Monday. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.